Hi, I had a hard time answering a successful grant project that I'm most proud of. Um, because the one I'm most proud of was a really small grant. It was $1,000 grant from 350.org, which was a or is a climate change non-governmental organization that works across the world and has at the time was mobilizing in the Pacific, and I was just finished with my PhD, and I wrote a grant um, in partnership with our village through the Motuha project, which I was a vehicle that I created after I had finished my doctorate. And the grant was to create a community greenhouse, very simple with coconut tree trunks and just earth floor and some very simple wind block walls. And it was temporary, meant to be temporary. And it came about from some research on mangroves, and an endangered type of mangrove in Tonga is called fa'onelua. Fa'onelua is a really beautiful and important mangrove, rare in Tonga, and at the time there were two trees on Wiha, very mother trees that were older and that only occasionally seeded, and there was a tree, two trees in Lapaha. And the reason why they were in Wiha and Lapaha, Lapaha is a royal village. It's where the sacred Langi tombs are. And in Wiha also is known to be the burial grounds of the ancient chiefs. And so the plant itself, because of Tongan culture, the mangroves weren't located far and wide. They were only planted in villages that had a strong royal connection, and the seeds were so beautiful and colorful that that they were harvested, and they were required for kahoa, for garlands, lei, for royal visitors and tombs. And so the seeds had not kind of naturally propagated themselves, and so they needed help. And the trees, the mother trees or grandmother trees, were older, and so they weren't fruiting regularly, maybe every few years. So I knew we would be in Wiha long enough to perhaps see the tree bear fruit, bear its seeds, and had written this grant so that we could create a nursery for the fa'onelua. And we watched over the months that we were there for the trees, the mother trees, to fruit, and they did fruit. And we got the babies and we put them in the community greenhouse and let them take root. And then, on the advice of some geographers and ethnobotanists, geographers, biogeographers, Randy Thaman at the University of the South Pacific advised us to split them up, and so we sent a batch of the babies to Vava'u, to the botanical garden there, and we sent a batch to Tongatapu, and then kept some on the island. So its impact was just that it was an intervention of a very small kind. And it's not that the fa'onelua was rare around the world. In Fiji, it was still common. It had not taken on that the restrictive tapu around planting it in Fiji, so it quite naturally propagated. And yet in Tonga, because it had become over time highly ranked, so all the plants in Tonga are ranked according to traditional custom, and so it had become a very rare plant because it was highly ranked, and so it was one of those blind spots of culture that just needed a little bit of a push. And so it was impactful also because it was I saw through that whole project, the Motuha project, and that grant in particular, the importance of kinship networks with research, the importance of vertical networks, the importance of protocol. So going through the Ho'eki, our noble in the island, and also that I had kinship ties that I could utilize, and I as well as knew my place and understood as an Indigenous researcher the limitations, but also the essential formation of genealogy to the work that's being undertaken in that applied space of research and how it's framed as research. So it showed how capacity is built vertically and horizontally. The horizontal nature of the project was that we were there long term. It was a strong project because it was very specific, and it was a strong project because it built on an actual knowledge of why the Fa'onelua had been kind of become rare. And it became rare because of a deep cultural requirement that it be rare. And so it taught me so much, and it demonstrated how much of impact falls outside of direct monitoring, and demonstrated the horizontal and diagonal impacts of seed grants